My name is TJ Kastning. I'm the founder of Ambassador Group, and I've been a construction recruiter for over 10 years. I've observed a lot of interviews and seen a lot of hires go well and go sideways. And one of the things I've learned is that interviewing teams need to know what they're doing. You need clear accountabilities, clear lanes of responsibility, and clear categories that they are supposed to be assessing. And so I'm going to show you how you can do this using your job description and a custom GPT I've created to create a simple interview strategy for your team, walk you through, help you develop interview questions, and a method for sharing and collecting your feedback. I'm going to walk you through how to use it. So let's jump in. Jump over here to ChatGPT, go into this interview strategy. So this custom GPT is available to anyone. And the first step is you simply put in your job description. You can either paste it or you can attach it. I've taken a sample superintendent job description from, who is it? I think it is hiringpeople.io. I can't say this is the most specific or good job description. I wouldn't recommend copying this, but it's a good example of how you can take a job description and turn it into a strategy. So we've got it here. I'm going to do a little bit of analysis, and the first thing it's going to do is break down and categorize the key responsibilities. This is important because a lot of job descriptions have a lot of fluff. So let's cut through the fluff and let's look at what do we really need to assess, okay? So first, this is really what we're assessing. This is what we need to delegate as key responsibilities to assess. Step two is we're going to assign the deciders. So let's tell it who our interviewing team is. So I'm going to give it a quick list of people who will be involved in the interview process. And it is going to suggest some interview focus, right? And the reason why this is important is if you have a whole team and they are each responsible for assessing everything, you also have a team that's responsible for assessing nothing. If there's not one person accountable for making the go or no-go decision on that particular factor, nobody's responsible for it. This is the problem with large interviewing groups and panel interviews, is it the diffusion of responsibility. So breaking down this job description, we have here a bit of an interview strategy. We've got the deciders that are suggested. You could change the decider, and it's suggesting a type of interview you can use to go through the process of assessing that. It's really important to think more broadly than just asking questions. Questions are important, but questions that really get into specific scenarios that your company faces, problems that they will solve, where you get to see their thought process and you get into the nitty-gritty of the role in your company. Super, super important. All right. Let's get into the questions. What this is now going to do is create 20 targeted interview questions to propose to the various interviewers, and recognize this is just a start. The GPT doesn't know your company like you do. And so these can be really good questions to start with if you've got a newer interviewer, but they could also be just prompts for you developing your own high definition interview questions. I recommend going into the interview with a lot of questions preloaded. If you're trying to manage the conversation, navigate relationally, and come up with the questions at the same time, you're not going to do a great job. So you can see we've got 20 questions for each person. Safety, team management, still working on a few budget management questions for Sally, and then the leadership and problem solving questions for me. I am very impressed with the quality of questions this develops. It is good. Let's create the feedback matrix. All right, so now feedback matrix. This is really important. You need to create accountability for your interviewing team. They have a lane they're supposed to stay in. By the way, this helps reduce redundant interviewing where people ask the same questions in another interview because they don't know what's already been covered. An interview strategy is really critical for making sure the whole team is working cohesively. The interview feedback is particularly critical because you need people to give feedback, authentic feedback, critical feedback before they've influenced each other. So it's important that they fill out this form before they talk to each other, and then the conversation later is to explain why they ranked the person as such and to share notes. You don't want them to influence each other. You don't want the diffusion of responsibility to come in. You want to be able to say, okay, here's where we rank this person. And that's a reflection of that interviewer's competence in interviewing. And so it's not unusual for interviewers to go through this process and find that They have a lot to learn about interviewing and their perceptiveness. You can also judge their skill at this and the progression of their skill over time as they interview people, provide feedback. If you hire those people, how do they perform according to how the interviewer ranked them? So I recommend keeping the interview feedback form simple, right? You can see here we've got three areas of ranking: unqualified. Do we think they're unqualified? Should we just move on? Qualified but needs training. Are we willing to make that investment? And then fully qualified, we expect this person to be able to do the job with very little investment. And then, of course, notes. Now, ChatGPT didn't put a large area on this, but I would put a substantial area for notes where they can explain why they think what they think about the candidate, because they're going to need to explain that and defend it with the rest of their interviewers when they discuss. That's it. That's the interviewing strategy. Each interviewer needs to go into the interview understanding their role, understanding their lane, understanding the broader context, what other people are talking, and understand that they're going to bring all of this feedback to the interview debrief with their fellow interviewers, share their perspective, and hopefully help you make a very high quality decision on the person. Thanks for watching. Let me know in your comments if you think this is useful for you, and I'm interested in any other strategies you may have discovered.